In the modern world, debt is no longer a warning sign. It's a lifestyle. We finance our cars, our phones, our weddings, our vacations. Even the food we eat tonight can be paid next month. Somewhere along the way, the chains of debt became invisible, and we started calling them freedom. People say, "I own this." But what they really mean is, "I owe this." The irony? The more we borrow, the freer we feel, until the bill arrives. This episode isn't about money. It's about the quiet slavery of convenience, a system designed not to steal your income, but your patience and your future. There was a time when debt was a warning sign, a red flag that told you to stop, to think, to protect what you had. But today, it's a badge of honor. We don't fear owing anymore. We celebrate it. A new car, a new phone, a vacation we can't afford, all bought with borrowed money and justified with one sentence, "I'll figure it out later." We've entered an age where later has become a way of life. We've built an entire economy around delay. Every product, every service, every dream, available instantly, payable eventually. Listen closely to the language we use. We don't say, "I saved for this." We say, "I qualified for this." Qualification, not discipline, is now the measure of success. If someone gives you credit, it means you're worth something. And so we chase approval, not assets. We accumulate points, limits, and upgrades, all while losing the one thing credit can't buy: freedom. Debt has become the air we breathe. We finance our meals, our phones, our memories. We call it convenience, but convenience is never free. It charges interest on your time, your peace, and your patience. Look around. The world no longer asks, "Can you afford this?" It asks, "Can you pay monthly?" That one question changed civilization. It shifted the moral compass of society. From saving to spending, from ownership to access, from restraint to reward. Our grandparents saved before they bought. They called it pride. Our parents financed and paid over time. They called it progress. We subscribe, and we call it normal. Everything is a subscription now, from your car to your coffee, your home software to your entertainment. You don't own anything. You rent it month after month, forever paying for the illusion of access. And the cruel genius of this system? It makes you feel rich while you're being drained. Every 0% interest is a leash. Every limited time offer is a lock. Every instant approval is another brick in the cage you mistake for comfort. Debt isn't just financial anymore. It's psychological. It rewires the human instinct for patience. It teaches us that waiting is failure, that gratification delayed is gratification denied. But here's the truth. You cannot borrow your way to freedom. You cannot rent your way to peace. And you cannot finance self-respect. Because every dollar you owe is an hour you don't own. The trap doesn't look like a trap anymore. It looks like convenience. It looks like a brand new car in the driveway. It looks like a smartphone upgrade included in your plan. It looks like a perfectly curated life that only exists on loan. And as we admire our possessions, we forget that most of them are still possessed. Not by us, but by the lender. Freedom hasn't disappeared. It's just been redefined. It no longer means I can choose. It means I can pay. And so we live in the paradox of prosperity. We are surrounded by abundance, and yet most of it isn't ours. But what happens when a generation builds its identity on what it owes, not what it earns? What happens when comfort becomes the new control? That is where the story begins. Because this isn't just about credit cards or car payments. It's about a civilization forgetting the difference between ownership and illusion. Debt doesn't steal your money. It steals your patience, and with it, your freedom. If this story made you pause for a moment, don't just scroll, stay, subscribe, and keep walking with us through the maze of money and power. Freedom. That's the word we love most, the word every advertisement whispers. Buy this and feel free. Upgrade this and be limitless. Own this and you'll finally arrive. But have you noticed? Every promise of freedom comes with a payment plan. We no longer measure liberty by choice, but by credit limit. The higher it goes, the freer we feel. It's not an accident. It's engineering. When you swipe your card, your brain releases dopamine, the same neurotransmitter triggered by victory, affection, even love. For a split second, you feel a rush. Not because you've gained something, but because the system rewarded your act of spending. This is no coincidence. It's design. Behavioral economists call it the pleasure loop of credit, a feedback cycle that turns consumption into comfort and comfort into identity. The modern world doesn't need chains to control you, just desire. Because when you crave, you obey willingly.
Approved.
Decades ago, debt was shameful. Now it's aspirational. We used to hide it. Today we post it. Luxury isn't bought with savings anymore. It's leased on emotion. You see a lifestyle online, you feel a void. And the fastest way to fill that void is plastic. The transaction completes, the dopamine hits, and for a brief moment, you feel whole again. But the bill always arrives after the feeling fades. The average person doesn't live paycheck to paycheck. They live dopamine to dopamine. The system doesn't want your failure. It wants your repetition. It thrives on your rhythm. Earn, spend, repeat. Every paycheck is pre-assigned, a quiet subscription to a life you don't own. Look at the messages we teach children. Treat yourself. You deserve this. YOLO. They sound empowering, but they all share one assumption, that satisfaction is something you buy. We've turned consumption into therapy, debt into identity, and impulse into normalcy. Freedom isn't gone. It's just been replaced by a polished illusion called choice. And yet deep inside, we all know something feels off. We buy but never arrive. We chase but never catch. The more we upgrade, the less we feel enough. That's not a moral failure, it's a biological one. Our nervous system evolved for scarcity, not abundance. We were never built to handle infinite temptation. Your ancestors hunted to survive. You scroll to spend. And every ad, every app, every limited offer knows exactly how your brain responds to pressure, to color, to sound, to fear of missing out. They don't sell products anymore. They sell anticipation. They sell the moment before you click buy. That's the currency now. Attention, not possession. The modern slave doesn't wear chains. They carry subscriptions. They don't live in fields. They live in feeds. And they wake up each morning to check how much freedom remains in their credit score. This isn't a conspiracy, it's a culture. A culture that taught us how to earn, but never how to wait. And when patience dies, so does sovereignty. Because to be truly free isn't to own everything, it's to need less. Modern slavery doesn't demand obedience. It just keeps you comfortable enough to never leave. They call it buy now, pay later. But the truth is, it's buy now, think never. For Gen Z, debt isn't a warning. It's background noise. It hums quietly beneath every tap, every scroll, every confirm purchase button. They grew up in a world where money isn't paper anymore. It's pixels, swipes, and notifications. To them, debt doesn't feel like a burden. It feels like convenience, like a feature, not a flaw. Apps like Klarna, Affirm and Afterpay don't sell you products. They sell you permission. Want it? You can have it right now. A $200 pair of shoes becomes $50 today. A $2,000 laptop becomes $100 a month. Every dream looks affordable until the dreams add up. It's brilliant and dangerous because it removes the one barrier that used to protect us: hesitation. The old world had friction. You had to walk to the store, count the cash, feel the weight of the choice. Now, it's a tap, a swipe, a smile emoji. And when spending feels effortless, restraint feels unnecessary. But here's what no one tells you. Every split payment is still a debt. Every easy installment is still an obligation. And every obligation is a small promise that your future self will be okay paying for your present self's decisions. But what if the future self is tired, or broke, or unemployed? Debt assumes your tomorrow will always be better than your today. That's not optimism, that's programming. A generation raised on instant results, likes, views, same-day delivery, is now trapped in a loop where satisfaction lasts seconds, but payments last years. And the worst part, they don't even call it debt anymore. They call it flexibility. Financial education hasn't evolved fast enough. Schools still teach how to calculate angles, but not how to calculate interest. They prepare kids for jobs, not for choices. So Gen Z learned about money the only way they could, through the interfaces that profit from their behavior. Imagine this. Every time you tap Buy Now somewhere, an algorithm learns your weakness, how long you looked, what color caught your eye, which days you're most likely to spend. You are no longer the customer. You're the data. The system doesn't want your money today. It wants your patterns forever. And every push notification, every countdown timer isn't trying to sell a product. It's trying to sell the illusion that you're still in control. But control has quietly changed sides. Freedom used to mean owning what you need. Now it means managing what you owe. They say Gen Z doesn't buy houses. That's not because they're lazy. It's because they're exhausted. They've been renting everything from time to tech to identity. When ownership becomes optional, so does accountability. And when accountability disappears, debt becomes destiny. The Gen Z debt crisis isn't coming. It's already here. It's not about credit cards anymore. It's about conditioning. Conditioning a generation to confuse debt with empowerment, to celebrate approval instead of autonomy, to believe that freedom can be delivered in 4 easy payments. They didn't sell them a product, they sold them their future, one notification at a time. They built a system that sells comfort and calls it freedom, but awareness spreads faster than debt, like share, and let the algorithm carry the truth a little further. They taught us how to multiply numbers, but never how to multiply wealth. They taught us how to read history, but never how to read a contract. They taught us how to follow rules, but never how to question systems. And that's not an accident. It's architecture. From the moment we entered school, we were trained, not educated. Trained to obey schedules, to wait for permission, to trade time for approval, to believe that money comes after hard work, and never the other way around. They told us, study hard, get a good job, and life will reward you. But they forgot to mention who owns the system that defines reward. The modern education system was designed during the Industrial Revolution. Its purpose wasn't freedom, it was efficiency. It wasn't about creating thinkers, it was about creating workers. The bells, the grades, the deadlines, they weren't meant to inspire creativity. They were meant to simulate factories. The classroom was never about curiosity. It was about conformity. So we learned to fear mistakes more than ignorance. We learned to memorize formulas instead of patterns. We learned to chase certificates instead of understanding. And then, when we graduated, they handed us a new curriculum, called debt, college loans, credit cards, mortgages. The diploma wasn't the key, it was the collateral. We were told education was the ladder to success, but they didn't tell us the ladder leaned against a wall we don't own, and the higher you climb, the more you owe. That's not education, that's domestication. If schools really wanted to prepare us for life, they would have taught us how to build cash flow, not just careers. How compound interest can work for you, not against you. How taxes quietly erase your time. How to spot financial traps dressed as opportunities. How freedom isn't about how much you earn, but how much you keep. But instead, they taught us obedience and called it discipline. They taught us debt and called it investment. They taught us compliance and called it success. Every generation inherits this same blindfold, wrapped in good intentions. And the result? A society that celebrates productivity but forgets prosperity. We produce more than ever before, yet feel poorer than ever before. Because we were never taught the difference between making money and being owned by it. The truth is simple, but uncomfortable. Schools don't build freedom. They build reliability. And reliable people are predictable. Predictable people borrow. Borrowing people obey. That's how you create a stable economy and an unstable population. We were taught how to earn a living, but never how to live without owing. The first step to freedom is realizing you were never taught how to be free. We were trained to perform, to prove, to produce, but never to pause. And that's why the trap works. Because debt isn't just financial, it's psychological. It feeds on your silence. It thrives when you believe you have no choice. They want you busy, always moving, always chasing. Because when you're exhausted, you'll sign anything that promises relief. A new loan, a new credit card, a new installment plan, a new label for the same old prison. You don't even notice the walls anymore because they look like lifestyle. They call it financial flexibility, but it's just bondage, rebranded with better marketing. So how do you escape a trap that rewards you for staying inside? It doesn't start with money, it starts with attention. You can't free yourself from what you refuse to see. Awareness is the first currency of freedom. Ask yourself, every time I spend, am I paying for value or am I paying for validation? Every time I work, am I earning income or am I trading years of my life for a false sense of safety? Every time I feel stress, do I buy comfort or do I confront truth? The answer to those questions will tell you whether you're building wealth or building a cage. The second step is disconnection, not from people, from patterns. Unsubscribe from the noise that tells you to hurry. Delete the apps that reward your impulses. Mute the voices that tell you you're missing out. The truth is you're not missing out, you're opting out. Freedom doesn't require more income. It requires fewer illusions. The third step is to rebuild your relationship with time. Time is the real currency. Debt steals it quietly. Every dollar you owe is a future hour you've already sold. Every swipe of the card is a piece of your tomorrow spent today. But when you reverse that, when you earn before you spend, when you save before you show, when you plan before you perform, you're not being cheap. You're reclaiming your timeline. And time, once reclaimed, is freedom reborn. The system can't trap you if you stop feeding it your attention. The market runs on urgency. Urgency runs on emotion. Emotion runs on distraction. Kill the distraction, and the system loses power. That's why they keep you scrolling, comparing, competing. Because peace is rebellion, and clarity is dangerous. And here's the paradox: when you stop chasing wealth, you start finding it. Because wealth isn't money. It's the margin between what you have and what you need. When that margin grows, so does your peace. So does your autonomy. So does your strength to say no. And that no is the most expensive word in the world because it can't be bought. Freedom doesn't come from paying off debt. It comes from refusing to think like a debtor. Don't aim to escape the system. Learn to stand above it. Learn the rules so you can bend them. Understand credit so you can use it, not serve it. Invest, not to get rich, but to become anti-fragile. Because the goal isn't luxury, it's leverage. Leverage over your own time, your own focus, your own energy. The world doesn't want free people. It wants efficient ones, predictable ones, tired ones. But the quiet revolution begins the day you stop measuring success by what you buy and start measuring it by what you can walk away from. Freedom isn't the absence of debt, it's the presence of choice. Freedom. It sounds simple, but simplicity is always the most expensive thing to buy. In a world built on noise, silence costs everything. In a world built on debt, freedom demands that you stop renting your life and start owning your choices. That's the cost, not money, but courage. We were raised to believe freedom was given, a right written on paper. But in reality, freedom is earned every day in invisible ways. It's not about where you live, it's about what owns you. And the truth is, most people don't own their lives. They lease them to habits, to fear, to comfort, to convenience, to the illusion that next month will be different. The modern cage doesn't have bars. It has interest rates. It doesn't silence you. It entertains you. It doesn't chain your body. It numbs your mind. It keeps you busy, so you never notice you've been tamed. Because once you stop running, you might start asking, run toward what? Freedom starts the moment you dare to ask that question. When you stop seeing debt as normal. When you stop seeing exhaustion as success. When you stop seeing consumption as reward. That's when the system begins to lose its grip. The moment you no longer crave what they sell. You become invisible to their control. That's the quiet rebellion. Freedom isn't loud. It whispers. It moves slowly. It breathes between your decisions. It's not built in revolutions. It's built in refusals. Every no you say to the unnecessary creates room for the essential. Every debt you close isn't just a number. It's a ghost leaving your house. Every dollar you save isn't greed. It's gravity, pulling your power back home. And one day, when you realize you no longer owe anyone anything, you'll feel something strange. Not pride, not wealth, but silence. The kind that feels like peace. Freedom has always been expensive because it requires you to let go of comfort, of approval, of the need to appear successful. You'll lose things on the way. Friends who can't understand why you stopped competing. Jobs that don't make sense when you value time. Dreams that were never really yours. But what you gain is worth more than any paycheck. Clarity, the ability to wake up without panic, to breathe without pressure, to work because you want to, not because you have to. That's freedom's quiet dividend. But here's the paradox. Freedom is never free because it demands you pay with everything that's false. You must burn illusions. You must bury lies. You must rebuild, brick by brick, a life that costs less but means more. And when you do, you'll notice something powerful. You stop chasing wealth and start attracting it. Because true wealth isn't stored in banks. It's stored in behavior, in patience, in peace. Freedom begins the moment you stop buying your identity and start remembering who you were before the world priced you. Freedom begins with awareness, but it survives through community. Join the Riches Code and help rewrite how the world understands money.